Liebe, Dich. Chad Burke was my first boyfriend. He was a junior, I was a senior. And as far as I was concerned, he was the hottest guy in a high school. So I couldn't believe it in the night he kissed me at a Stone Temple Pilots concert. Chad was incredibly angry. This is the guy who snuck out at night to write Rage Against the Machine lyrics on telephone poles, which turned out to be a theme in my life. I spent a long time feeling drawn to angry men. Chad worshipped Steven Seagal, who looked like a high school version of the action star, with the low ponytail and everything. It was 1993, back when that was sexy. Was it though, or was that just me? Chad was popular because he was good looking, but not in the way well-liked people are popular. He would never have been elected the captain of a team or voted most likely to succeed or anything like that. He was a cynical, bitter teenager, but looks can get you far in high school. He was smart too, although can we talk for a minute about how fucked up our societal intelligence scale is? Why do we gauge smarts the way we do? I say this out of pride because I took an intelligence test in high school that scored students on a level of 1 to 5 and I got a 2. The teacher told me my score and suggested that I should become a secretary, and I was so pissed off. Not because secretaries are dumb, I'm sure most secretaries are plenty smarter than a 2 out of 5. But because being told what I should or could do as if I was too stupid for anything else was infuriating. Similarly, I scored a 1060 out of 1600 on SATs. And I remember this guy in my grade asking me what I got. And after I told him, he said, "Oh my god, I thought you were so much smarter than that." I know, I said. I thought I was too. Thank God I had parents who believed in me because I really took the secretary thing to heart. And if I didn't have a family who constantly encouraged me, I certainly wouldn't have the confidence to write this book that I'm totally unqualified to be writing. But anyway, by conventional standards, Chad was smart. One September evening in 1993, a group of 7 or 8 of us went to a Stone Temple Pilots concert. It was exhilarating to be out with the cool kids. I was not in the popular crowd in high school, and while I mostly tried to stay under the radar, I found myself on the receiving end of mean girls, or general mocking a decent amount. Being a theater kid wasn't looked highly upon in Netherlands. So for the concert, I told my mom I was staying the night at my friend Stephanie's, and instead I went to the concert with the classmates I didn't usually hang out with. So there I was with this hot dude making advances on me, and it was war, wine, ill. Not just physical but mental intoxication. All I could think was, this is the best night of my life. Chad and I made out, and despite the fact that we were completely stoned and smashed in a sea of sweaty fans and standing in front of our classmates, or maybe because of that, I thought this was completely magical. A couple of days later, when Chad asked me to be his girlfriend, I was overjoyed. He snuck over to my house in the middle of the night and put a big banner in my window that read, "Ich liebe dich." That's "I love you" in German. He was a big German studies fan. Chad and I got very passionate very quickly. We would look into each other's eyes and say that we would die without each other. One day, my mom looked at me and said, "Anna, I've never seen you this happy before." I hadn't told my parents about Chad because I was too embarrassed. It was incredibly important to my mom that I wasn't boy obsessed, which was a hard standard to live up to as a teenager. And of course I was boy crazy, but instead of just embracing that as a normal phase of my teen years, I was ashamed. I thought I shouldn't feel the way I did, so I never told her anything about boys. Not Jason Sprat's Ice Milk or Jason Berry's sodas or anything. But once my mom noticed that something was different, I admitted that I was dating someone and that I really liked him. I showed her Chad's picture, and I remember her saying, "Oh, he's so handsome." It was gratifying to hear her say that. But I also thought, "Mom, you could not have said anything worse, because now I'm diving in headfirst. If you're going to approve of this, I'm so in." I was crazy for Chad. He was just so hot and angry, which were my only two requirements in a man back then. And I was in such disbelief that anyone so good-looking would like me that I would have done anything for him. If he had said, "I really, really, really want to have a threesome," I probably would have been like, "Great, with who? Where? The parking lot? Awesome." He was the guy I lost my virginity to. More on that later. And my first love. It was the heady rush of young love that has no basis in logic at all. I really thought we were going to get married. He gave me a promise ring. So when he decided to graduate a year earlier and enroll at the University of Washington, I followed him there. 2 weeks before college, Chad asked if I would mind if he joined the frat. I told him I didn't mind at all, even though I had no plans to be a part of the Greek system. The week that college started, I didn't hear anything from him for 3 days, even after repeated pages, again 1994. So eventually I stalked him, stalked. I knew where all his classes were, and this was a huge school, like 45,000 undergrads. So I conveniently found myself outside one of the buildings at just the right time and bumped into Chad. He saw me and said, "Oh yeah, I've been meaning to tell you I wouldn't see other people." It was a blow. I must have known on some level. He hadn't communicated with me in a few days, which was a pretty strong indicator that something was off, but I was still devastated. So I did what any self-respecting, reluctant ex-girlfriend would do and continued to stalk him. Maybe it was more like borderline stalking. I showed up at his fraternity and his frat brothers would say, "Chad's not here," and I would gasp out between drunken sobs, "Why isn't he here? Where is he?" Then they would escort me back to my dorm, and it was all very pathetic and dramatic in a way that only happens during college. 4 months later, in January, Chad got kicked out of his fraternity, so he moved into a probably illegal apartment next to a Korean restaurant, which smelled like kimchi had permeated the wallpaper. Soon after that, he called me in my dorm and told me he wanted me back. I didn't pass go and ran directly into his waiting arms and his waiting bed. Within the week, I realized I'd lost all sense of myself for this douchebag of a person. But instead of being courageous that very day, I went home and wrote in my calendar that on March 14th, I would break up with him. For whatever reason, that was the day I chose, 2 months away. I stuck it out for those 2 months. Even though everything about Chad drove me crazy by then, I would stare at his long, delicate, artistic fingers and feel a tug of annoyance. His pride of wearing T-shirts as though he were a river rafting guide made me cringe. So did his ponytail and his cackling laugh, which was usually directed at someone less fortunate than he. One time he told me after pointing out a Darwin fish sticker on the back of a car, he could have invented that. The worst grievance of all was his surprise at my decent acting skills in the idiotic Steven Seagal fan videos he made with his friends. But mostly I was horrified by those fingers. Sometimes I worry that if I get dementia like my grandma, who by the end of her life talked exclusively about how her brother turned down the family farm when she was 9. I'll spend my life ranting about Chad's fingers. In the case, I like to think my husband could make a solid case this state for assisted suicide. It turned out I needed those 2 months to realize that I hated more than what I liked about Chad. and mustered the confidence to put my first real relationship behind me. I needed to digest all of it before I really broke it off. On March 14, I woke up and thought, this is the day I have to have some pride. I marched over to Chad's place and said, I'm leaving you. And he didn't say anything. He just walked to his fridge, pounded a beer, threw it at the wall, and said, you are going to be back here in a week. At that point, I knew that even if I did want to be back there in a week, which I kind of did, I couldn't even return. So that was the end of Chad Buck, almost. 10 years later, right before I married my ex-husband, I tracked Chad down, which was probably a sign I shouldn't have been getting married in the first place. I called his mom, and when she picked up, I was just like, hey, Mrs. Park, you might not remember me, but this is Anna. And she immediately said, oh, hi, I've been following your career, it's so great. The way she spoke to me and her lack of surprise at hearing my voice, it was as if we had chatted 2 days earlier. It was so strange. I told her I'd love to catch up with Chad and gave her my number. At that time, I was in New Orleans shooting the movie Waiting, and the next night Chad called. It had been 24 hours since I'd reached out to his mother, enough time for me to come to my senses. My phone rang, and all I could think was, oh fuck, what am I doing? Why am I reaching out to my ex when I'm about to get married? I didn't pick up. He called 3 more times. I had studied this, I realized, so the polite thing to do was at least talk to him. We ended up on the phone for 6 hours. He lived in San Francisco, and he told me the most grotesque story about going to China and marrying a woman who was in love with someone else, and how her family hired him a prostitute. I laughed so hard, not because it was funny really, but because I was so relieved at how gross it was. I remember thinking, okay, I made the right choice. This is the sign I'm doing the right thing. In the end, that wasn't entirely the case, and the marriage ended in divorce. But the Chad Buck call was another instance of me reading a lot into the idea of closure. Chad was my first love, and we all romanticize our first loves, especially as a teenager, when the emotions flood into your brain in a way that doesn't happen in your 30s. I do wonder though, why we are always so tempted to revisit the first relationship. In the very best case scenario, we have someone begging for us back. Oh my god, you are the one that got away, they might say. I can't believe I fucked it up. Is there anything I can do to get you back? But the reality is that's not going to happen. And do you really want someone to say that anyway? To be fair, hearing that the guy who treated you like crap might want you back, and realizing that you are over it, that you don't need them, and certainly don't want them, and are actually too good for them, would definitely feel empowering. So yeah, that would be kind of great.